Her Excellency Asifa Bhutto Zardari, First Lady of Pakistan, His Excellency Murad Ali Shah, Chief Minister of Sindh, Excellencies, Ambassadors, Ministers, officials, and not unimportantly, friends, colleagues. It's such a pleasure to be with you today at this very important forum that gathers not just the Pakistan experience, but experience of many countries when it comes to shelter and settlement. And I think that Pakistan has a lot to offer when it comes to this forum. As we all know, and it was mentioned already by previous speakers, Pakistan is among the most affected by the negative impacts of climate change. We saw that obviously in the devastating floods in 2022 that displaced more than 33 million people, and particularly where we are here today in the Sindh province, that province was particularly hard affected. But it didn't just stay with 2022. We've seen last year, again, massive floods in Pakistan, fortunately not at the scale as we saw in 22, but still with quite some damage. And if we look at the forecasts for this year's weather, unfortunately, the indications are not particularly good. That means that the issue of climate resilience is, I think, absolutely vital. Out of the catastrophe of 2022 and the floods, we've also seen some positive elements rising. And I would say that one of the most important positive elements arising out of the floods is the massive climate resilient housing scheme that will be displayed over the course of the next few days in Sindh. The largest housing scheme, climate resilient housing scheme in the world, and as mentioned by previous speakers, indeed that's indeed an achievement in itself, but it's not just the housing. It has so many side-on benefits. Already mentioned the massive impact on gender equality and financial inclusion. But I think also what is equally important is the amount of data that has been gathered. We know much more about rural Sindh thanks to this very innovative project that gives full ownership to communities to take their future in their own hands by building with their own hands a climate resilient house when they were so much affected by the floods. Now in 2022, the EU was very much part and parcel of what we called the PDNA, the Post-Disaster Needs Assessment, and the subsequent 4RF. Collectively, the EU and its Team Europe partners were bringing in €1 billion of support to Pakistan to help relieve the impact of the flood. And I'm happy to announce, we have heard already the World Bank and the ADB. We were supposed to have heard the Islamic Development Bank, hopefully with the audio that will be resolved very soon. I'm happy to announce that the European Investment Bank, the EU's bank, will soon join the club of international financing institutions that is going to support the world's largest housing program in Sindh. If the Ministry of Economy is somewhere listening, we hope that the negotiations on the loan, which are set for the end of February, will be concluded very, very positively, very, very soon. But just adding more funds to the housing scheme is one way of helping. The EU, as you know, is primarily providing grants. And in a context in which grants are increasingly constrained, in my humble opinion, the best view to use grants is to find ways to innovate, to pilot, to showcase that certain things can be done, taking risks, so that once you show that something works, sometimes it fails, sometimes it doesn't, once you show that something works, this can be scaled up and picked up by much more substantial financing coming from our colleagues from the different banks, including the European Investment Bank. In that regard, you may want to know that the EU has been teaming up with the government of Sindh to help support the Sindh poverty reduction strategy. And as part of this strategy, what we try to do very much in strong cooperation with the Sindh government was to say, we have limited resources, we have massive challenges, let's focus our efforts on a few, some of the most vulnerable districts, and let's see if we can build an ecosystem of a rural town and an ecosystem of villages around it, and see if we work together, government, building infrastructure, health facilities, roads, educational centers, water facilities, and the EU trying to unleash private sector capacities, trying to also build community-based infrastructure. If we can, at the micro level, get people out of poverty, then this is something that we could try to replicate on a much larger scale. And so this is actually what we are doing at the moment. We have developed in 5 districts in Sindh so-called climate resilient development plans. This, by the way, would not have been possible without the excellent data that was gathered through this world's largest housing program that took place in Sindh. And with this climate resilient development program, we try to catalyze scalable and sustainable recovery outcomes in flood-affected areas of Sindh. This involves building resilient and sustainable settlements led by community participation and technology-informed planning to enhance access to basic services, basic infrastructure, and expand socio-economic capabilities. Just a few weeks ago, I was in the village of Lako Brachno, which is in Tata district. That village had been substantially affected by the floods, and I was so happy to see how with the help of SPHF, of our colleagues from UNIDO, and with EU support, we have been able to turn this village around and become the first model village where we try to implement the climate resilient settlement development plan. That's just one village. With EU grant, we will try to make this turn from 1 village to 50 villages, and we hope that when we show that this is possible, more banks, more partners will join us and turn rural Sindh into the prosperous region it's supposed to be. So with that, big thank you once again to the organizers, to all those that have been very much responsible for turning the housing project into the success it is, and it deserves to be shown across the world. Wish you lots of success and deliberations in your exchanges, and do go to the field visit because the model village is part of that as well. Enjoy that too. Thank you so much.